The wind over Sigma 7 was always dry and patient, like it had nowhere to be. The colony's outskirts stretched wide and barren, dotted only by spires of old mining rigs and low clusters of metal homes. Lucas Trent's workshop sat on the very edge, closer to the dunes than the settlement, where silence was a friend and the only company was the ticking of machines. His hands were stained with years of grease, his eyes used to the flicker of broken drones and cracked converters. He lived alone, by choice, by rhythm. Each morning began with black coffee. Each evening ended with a small oil lamp and blueprints sprawled across his desk. He was content. He had no need for more dot, but that night, under the twin moons, something changed. Lucas had just closed the panel on a hydrodrill stabilizer when he caught it, a sudden arc of light slashing across the sky. Not the slow, familiar descent of supply shuttles, not the cold flare of satellite burns. This was fast, sharp, silver, a streak that carved through the stars like it didn't care for permission. He stood there, rag in hand, blinking against the moon's pale glow as the object descended. Slow now, glowing brighter as it came to rest behind the ridge. Barely a few hundred meters away. It didn't crash. It landed. His feet moved before. His mind caught up. Instinct tugged him forward, tools still strapped to his belt. He crested the hill and stopped cold. The vessel was unlike anything he had ever seen, sleek, seamless, almost organic in shape. No rivets, no panels. It shimmered. Like water, its surface shifting gently under the moonlight. A low hum came from within, not mechanical but alive, like a breathing creature asleep and dreaming. He approached slowly, heart-pounding. Then, a hiss. A ramp extended from the belly of the ship, unfolding like silk. Light spilled out, warm and colorless. And from that light, two figures emerged. They were taller than him, with limbs like dancers and skin a soft, pale blue that shimmered faintly in the cold. Their eyes glowed with a steady, almond-shaped light, and their suits, if you could call them, that flowed with their movements like liquid metal. Lucas froze, unsure if he should speak, run, or kneel. The taller of the two stepped forward, her voice melodic but clear. "Are you the engineer?" Lucas swallowed. His throat was dry. He nodded slowly, his voice barely above a whisper. "Yes, I'm Lucas Trent." She tilted her head, studying him. "Our ship's core is failing. We need immediate assistance." He hesitated. I've never worked on anything like this." A pause. Then she stepped aside, gesturing toward the ship. "Still you came." Lucas looked at the vessel. The hum had changed. It pulsed slightly as he approached, like it felt him. Something inside him stirred. He didn't understand it, but he couldn't turn away. "All right," he said, tightening the strap on his tool bag. "Show me." They led him up the ramp. Inside, the ship was stranger still, smooth walls that glowed with shifting symbols, a soft breeze without wind, and energy that whispered through the air like it was aware. The second woman said nothing, but her eyes never left him. They brought him to the core chamber. At the center stood a crystalline structure, glowing erratically. Energy flickered off its surface like lightning caught in glass. Lucas stepped forward, his fingers tingling. "I'll try," he said softly, already knowing this wasn't a simple repair job. They nodded, but something about the way their eyes lingered told him this wasn't just about the ship. Something deeper was broken. Something they weren't saying. The hum of the ship deepened the moment Lucas touched the crystalline core. It wasn't a sound exactly. It was more like a pulse, a rhythm he could feel in his bones, slow at first, then matching the beat of his own heart. The alien device flickered wildly, sending stray sparks across the floor, but as Lucas rested his palm on a panel beside it, the pulses calmed. The energy around them shifted, subtle but undeniable. The core responded to him. Teria, the taller alien woman, watched, with a stillness that felt deliberate. Alara, quieter and more distant, remained near the entrance of the chamber, her eyes unreadable. Neither of them moved to interrupt. Lucas wasn't sure what he was doing. He only knew that he should be doing it. The tools in his belt, made for human machines, shouldn't have worked here, but they did. When he used them, the ship adapted, its panels softened, shifted, offered access. The energy streams aligned themselves with his movements. He bypassed circuits that weren't visible seconds before. It was as if the ship wanted to be fixed. "You formed a link," Teria said, stepping forward slowly. Lucas didn't look. Up from the control node he was calibrating. "What kind of link?" "The ship is semi-sentient," she replied. "It was designed to connect to intention, to soul. Few bond with it so quickly." Lucas blinked. "Bond? This isn't a repair job, is it?" Teria's expression softened, her glowing eyes dimming just slightly. "Not in the way you think. This ship doesn't just obey its pilot. It chooses them, and it's chosen you." That should have made him laugh. He wasn't a soldier or an explorer or anyone important. Just a mechanic who lived alone on a fringe world with a pile of half-finished projects and no interest in stardust or destiny. And yet, as he adjusted a filament inside the core, and the lights above changed from erratic blue to a steady white, a part of him believed her. Behind him, Alara finally spoke. "You stabilized it fully. That should have taken 3 of us. Or a full diagnostics AI." Lucas stepped back slowly, wiping the sweat from his brow. "I didn't really do anything special. I just followed the energy flow. It told me what it wanted." Alara and Teria exchanged a look, brief, but unmistakably cautious. "The last time it did that," Alara murmured, "the one who touched the core didn't survive." Lucas froze. "What?" "The core is built from rare energy crystalline symbiotes. It amplifies thought and emotion. If the intent isn't pure, it rejects violently." Lucas felt the air grow heavier. "Why didn't you tell me that before I touched it?" Teria stepped closer, her voice calm. "Because we didn't know how it would react to you. We couldn't risk alarming it. The ship knew what it needed. And it needed you." He sat down hard on a bench near the wall. "I'm just a guy who fixes things." "No," Teria said quietly. "You're something more. And the ship sees it, even if you don't." Lucas leaned back, watching the crystalline core now glowing with soft golden light. It wasn't threatening anymore. It almost looked peaceful. "So now what?" he asked. Teria hesitated. "Now you have a choice. You've bonded with the ship. The connection can't be undone, but it can be ignored. You can return to your colony, live your life. Pretend none of this happened. The bond will fade eventually." Lucas stared at her. "And if I don't?" Alara answered this time. "Then you come with us." The words hung in the air. Lucas looked around again, the walls still pulsing, the symbols still dancing, as if listening. Something about the ship called to him. Not like a voice, but a pull. Not of obligation, but of belonging. He stood and paced slowly, glancing out one of the side panels. The moons hung low over Sigma 7, casting silver light across the sand dunes. He thought of his shop, his tools, his bench, the ticking of old machines. Safe, predictable, small. "Why me?" he asked, not really expecting an answer. "Because you listen," Teria said. "You don't force, you feel, you respond. Our technology was built for those who see machines as more than tools. You see them as companions." Lucas let the silence grow for a while. Then a soft alarm sounded. A new light flickered on the far console, soft red, blinking slowly. Alara moved to it, eyes narrowing. "We're not alone anymore," she said. Lucas frowned. What does that mean? A second ship. Following the same path we used to get here, but it's not ours. Is it dangerous? Teria stepped forward, her voice sharp now. Not yet. But it's not one of us. And if it finds us here, with the core active, Ilara cut in. We need to leave, now. Lucas's breath caught. Leave, Sigma-7? Teria nodded. This place is no longer safe. If they come here looking for the core, they'll destroy everything to get it. Lucas looked again at the glowing crystal, then at the ramp leading down to the dunes, the place he'd called home. He had fixed hundreds of machines, but never once had he thought any of them would fix him. The ship pulsed again, welcoming. A live dot and Lucas Trent quiet, stubborn, ordinary stood at the edge of something vast and uncertain. The ramp sealed shut with a hiss, and the ship began to hum, not as a machine powering on, but as a living thing awakening. Lucas stood in the corridor, his heart still pounding. Outside, Sigma-7 faded under twin moons, but inside the air changed. The lights pulsed. The walls almost shimmered. It felt like the ship itself had exhaled. He had said yes. He didn't even remember the moment clearly. Maybe it was when Ilara's voice trembled just slightly. Maybe it was when Teria, so calm until then, glanced over her shoulder with a look that said there is no time left. Maybe it was the pulsing of the core, rising and falling like a heartbeat that wasn't his but felt like it was. Now, the sky was behind him, and the stars ahead. Teria led him through the interior, series of glowing pathways that curved and shifted like muscle under skin. It wasn't like any ship he'd seen in diagrams or old freighter hulls. The vessel adjusted to their pace, its walls widening or narrowing, as if deciding how much of itself to show. We'll enter Lightfold in less than 2 minutes, Teria said, her voice calm but clipped. The pursuing vessel is from a faction that does not negotiate. Lucas furrowed his brow. Faction? The Xereth, Ilara replied from behind, her voice low. They harvest living ships like ours, break the bonds, enslave the cores. Lucas felt his gut twist. Wait, the ship is alive. How can you enslave something like that? Teria stopped and turned. The same way people always do. By cutting away the part that feels, the bond. Lucas said nothing. The core had trusted him. Not for his tools or his experience, but for the way he saw machines. Not as parts, but as presence, they reached the command chamber. Lucas expected consoles, levers, maybe a captain's chair. Instead, there were rings of floating glyphs suspended mid-air. When Teria stepped into the center, the glyphs adjusted to her presence, wrapping around her body like glowing threads. Initiating fold, she said. Lucas, you might feel pressure behind your eyes. Don't fight it. Just breathe. He nodded, unsure what she meant until the universe stretched. He felt the stars lengthen into ribbons of light, space turning thin and wide and somehow folded inward. Gravity slipped sideways. Colors shimmered in shades he didn't have names for. His breath caught. It wasn't pain. It was exposure. Like the veil between him and reality had thinned, and something greater was peeking through, and then it was over. The ship stabilized. The hum returned to normal. The walls glowed soft and slow. We've exited pursuit range, Teria confirmed. Lucas leaned against the nearest surface, exhaling hard. What in the name of physics was that? Ilara offered a small smile. The closest thing to magic you've ever experienced, he chuckled dryly. You're not wrong. They stood in silence for a moment, the only sound being the low, steady breath of the ship. Then Teria turned to Lucas with a different kind of seriousness. You should understand what's ahead, she said. You didn't just repair the core. You awakened something we've been searching for since before you were born. Lucas blinked. What do you mean? The core wasn't just damaged. It was sleeping. We've been traveling across systems looking for someone it would accept. It rejected every candidate. But you, she hesitated. It didn't just accept. It recognized you. Ilara stepped forward, holding a small device that displayed a hologram Lucas's biosignature overlaid with another pattern. Older, alien, matching. Your genetic markers align with the original builders of these ships, Ilara said. Lucas stepped back. That's not possible. I'm from Sigma 7, born and raised. I've got parents, a birth record. I'm human, yes, Teria said. But something in your bloodline carries the code of a race long gone. A race that built ships not with tools, but with thought. Lucas shook his head. This is too much. I just fixed a ship. That's all I did. No, Ilara said softly. You heard it. You felt it. The others tried to rewire the core. You listened. Teria gestured toward the center of the chamber where the core glowed gently, and it listened back. The silence that followed felt heavier than gravity. Lucas didn't speak. Didn't move. The ship alive, aware responded with a soft pulse. And the walls rippled, revealing a hidden star map. One system in particular glowed brighter than the rest. It's leading us somewhere, Teria said. A system not on any known chart, the last resting place of its creators. And you want me to come, Lucas said slowly. We need you to come, Ilara replied. You're the only one it trusts now. Lucas stared at the map. Something deep within him stirred not fear, not even wonder. Something older. Like a calling long buried, finally remembered. Behind him, the ship's heartbeat continued, not mechanical, not programmed, alive. Waiting. The journey toward the unknown system marked only by a pulsing glyph on the ship's living star map felt different than the ones before. Lucas Trent had crossed a line he couldn't uncross. He wasn't just a passenger now. The ship responded to him like it knew his rhythm, his thoughts, the language he hadn't realized he'd been speaking all his life, the language of repair, of patience, of trust. But with each passing hour, that pulsing glyph on the map grew brighter and colder. Where? Nearing the veil, Teria said one morning, her voice softer than usual. She stood in the central chamber, the starlight from the viewport casting silver against her skin. The veil? Lucas asked, staring at the holographic image that floated mid-air, an orbit of ice and dust cloaking a planet at the map's edge. A field of ancient matter, Ilara explained as she entered, holding a scanner against her forearm. Barely stable. Navigable, but only if the ship can resonate at the right frequency. Which, now it can. Lucas looked between them. You've tried to go through it before? Teria's gaze darkened. Twice. We lost a crew the second time. The core rejected the resonance. It fought the entry. Lucas swallowed. But you think I can guide it through? No, she said. We know you can. The ship began to tremble, not violently, but with a low, resonant hum, like it was clearing its throat. Outside, the veil loomed ahead, swirling like storm clouds frozen in time, lit by distant stars and flashes of unknown particles. Lucas stepped forward into the ship's neural chamber, the place where intention met control. The glyphs surrounded him again, responding before he even raised a hand. Not touchscreens, not buttons, just awareness. The ship read him like a living diary. Ready? Ilara asked, standing at the edge. Lucas nodded, as I'll ever be. The moment he aligned his breath with the ship's rhythm, the veil surged. Around them, lights fractured. The hull groaned, but didn't break. The ship slipped inside, and Lucas felt his mind stretch again, but not like the first jump. This time it was heavier, more intimate. Visions flickered. Shapes. Cities made of glass and stone, floating over oceans of light. Beings tall and cloaked, their faces hidden but their thoughts pouring out in whispers. You are the key. Awaken the archive. Remember the promise. Lucas gasped and dropped to one knee. The ship steadied itself, slowing as it pierced deeper into the field. The visions faded, but the words lingered. When the veil broke, it happened all at once like silent snapping. They emerged into a dead system. No stars, no planets. Only one object remained, a massive ring structure floating in black space, unmoving, untouched by time. Lucas stepped to the viewport and stared. The rings weren't metallic. They were translucent, flickering with fragments of frozen memory. Inside the structure pulsed a faint blue light. This is what the ship wanted us to find, Teria said, awe breaking through her usual calm. What is it? Lucas whispered. The heart of the builders, Alara answered. An archive, maybe a beacon, maybe more. No one's been here since before language. Lucas could feel it, the same way he'd felt the core that first night. The structure wasn't just a thing. It was waiting, just like the ship. And it was waiting for him. As they approached, the rings of the archive began to rotate slowly, responding to the ship's presence. Responding to his presence. It's recognizing the bond, Teria said. You're the key, Lucas. Lucas felt his hands tremble, not from fear but from weight. History. The responsibility of being chosen for something he never asked for. The ship hovered near the archive's opening, and a bridge of light extended toward them, a path. Lucas turned to Teria and Alara. What do we do now? We follow it, Teria said, already stepping forward. Elara hesitated, looking at Lucas with something deeper than uncertainty in her eyes, almost fear. This place isn't just for knowledge, she whispered. It's for judgment. The three of them crossed the bridge and stepped into the heart of the archive. Inside was silence, not emptiness, but deep, ancient silence. The kind that lived in ruins and stars. The structure reacted to every step Lucas took. Glyphs lighting beneath his feet, rising into spirals of glowing language none of them understood. But Lucas did. Somehow. He did. The glyphs didn't speak in words, but in feeling. Sorrow, longing, hope. The archive wasn't a library. It was a tomb. A memory of a people who had sacrificed everything to hide this technology, to protect it from war, from greed, from what came after. And now it had opened for Lucas. Trent. A deep voice echoed, not through ears but through the core of his mind. You are the echo, the final signal. Do you remember the promise? Lucas fell to his knees as a flood of images crashed into his thoughts. Planets burned, alliances shattered, and the original builders scattering their legacy into space. They left seed ships like the one he now stood in, each one holding a fragment of his soul. And he was one of them. Not by blood. But by bond. He had chosen compassion over control, listening over command, repair over replacement. He hadn't inherited the legacy. He had earned it. As the archive pulsed around them, a deep rumble grew in the distance. A ripple spread across the dark system. Lights lit on the ship's console. We're not alone anymore, Alara whispered, her eyes wide. The xereth, Teria said, jaw tight. They followed us through the veil. Lucas stood, eyes still glowing faintly from the glyph's light. Then we make our stand here, he said. We finish what the builders started. Asterisk. The alarm pulsed like a heartbeat across the ship's walls. No sharp sounds, no sirens. Just that steady, throbbing light. Red, slow, relentless. It filled the command chamber like a countdown, like a warning not just to act, but to remember. Lucas didn't move, not yet. He stood at the edge of the archive's bridge, looking out into the dark system that stretched beyond the veil. Something shimmered there now, faint and distant. A second ripple, like oil spilled across stars. There. Inside, Teria said quietly, her fingers gliding over the ship's glyphs. The xereth crossed the threshold. Their ship is cloaked, but not for long. Ilara narrowed her eyes. They won't fire yet. They'll wait to see what we activate. They know this place matters. Lucas looked at the rotating rings of the Paldavada. Archive behind them, the glowing glyphs still hovering midair, responding to his presence. He could feel the archive's awareness now dim, aged, flickering, but still alive. And it was looking through him. Not at him? Then we give them a reason to wait, he said. I want to know what's really buried here. They returned to the heart of the structure, where a vast circular chamber pulsed with threads of blue. Light. Holograms flickered overhead, ships falling, planets cracking, builders kneeling. It wasn't a story. It was a confession. One final memory, suspended forever. Lucas stepped closer, and the chamber responded. Rings of glyphs circled him, scanning not just his biology, but his memories, his intent. He felt something crawl beneath his skin, not fear, but vulnerability. Like the archive was peeling him open from the inside, he saw flashes of his life on Sigma 7. Quiet days, worn tools. The small joy of fixing something broken, the choice to listen, not rush. To repair, not replace. You are not of our blood, the archive whispered. But you are of our code. The center platform rose, revealing a sphere of compressed energy, clear, pulsing, pure. The seed of a ship, a vessel not yet born. What is that? Lucas asked, breath short. A second ship. Teria said. They left it behind, locked, waiting for one who passed their test. You're the first, Ilara said softly. Lucas stepped forward, but the moment he reached for the sphere, the ship's walls vibrated violently. Outside, stars shifted. A presence moved. And then they spoke, a voice artificial and inhuman. Sliced through the ship's comes like razors through silk. Return the seed, or be erased. Lucas froze. The xereth had arrived. Their vessel shimmered into partial view through the archive's translucent walls, dark, jagged, predatory. Its design was the opposite of the builder's grace. Harsh lines, brute force. A ship built not to think, but to take. They don't want the archive, Teria said, eyes narrowing. They want the seed. Lucas stared at the glowing orb pulsing, gently in front of him. He didn't know why, but every part of him ached to protect it. It felt familiar, like the ship he'd bonded with, like something still forming a mind of its own. Can we move it? He asked. Elara checked the readings. If you touch it directly, it may bind to you like the first one did. Teria looked at Lucas with calm urgency. We don't have time to debate. Lucas stepped forward and placed his hand on the sphere. The effect was immediate. Light exploded outward, carving spirals of white-blue energy around him. The archive reacted violently, runes igniting, circuits screaming awake after. 1,000 years of sleep. The entire station lit up like a lighthouse in the void. Outside, the xereth ship decloaked fully and fired. The beam slammed into the archive's outer shell, but the structure held. Barely. Inside, Lucas dropped to his knees, the energy from the seed burning through his body but not harming him. He wasn't being scorched. He was being written into it. Your signal has been accepted. The archive whispered. And then the seed vanished. Lucas blinked. What just happened? Ilara checked the readings again. The seed, it entered you. Teria's voice was sharper. Not in him. With him, it's nested, linked. The ship, Lucas's ship, responded to the signal with a pulse that shattered. Nearby crystal columns. Its walls rippled. A second chamber opened, one no one had ever seen. Lucas stepped toward it as the xereth ship fired again. This time, the blast cracked a ring of the archive, sending fragments of stone spiraling into the void. We need to move, Ilara said, gripping a handrail. Teria grabbed Lucas's wrist. You're not just a passenger now. You're carrying their last hope. We cannot let them take you. Lucas looked back at the archive's glowing ruins, the memories still dancing in the air. Then we fight, he said. They ran Dot back to the ship. Alarms flared. The Xereth vessel was closing in. Their signal grew louder, more brutal. You are unauthorized. Surrender or be dismantled. Lucas stepped into the neural chamber, his breath ragged. The glyphs swirled around him, responding faster than ever. They didn't just glow now, they sang. He reached out Dot, and for the first time, the ship moved not because he told it to Dot, it moved because it trusted him. They launched into the dark. A trail of shattered archive light behind them. Dot and Lucas Trent, once a mechanic on a forgotten colony, guided a living ship, now fused with a second soul, into a battle he never imagined. He didn't know what waited ahead, but the stars were watching Dot, and this time they remembered his name. The stars blurred past like screams in the dark as Lucas Trent gripped the edges of the neural chamber, the glyphs spinning faster than ever before. His ship was moving with a speed and agility it had never shown before, not even with Teria at the helm. Now it flew as though it wanted to escape, not just for its sake, but for his Dot, the second seed. The dormant vessel that had nested within him wasn't just along for the ride. It was awake. It whispered through the bond, guiding him through folds of space he didn't know existed, helping him dodge the dark energy blasts fired from the pursuing Xereth warship. Teria and Ilara were strapped in behind him, but they had gone silent. Not out of fear, out of awe. They had known Lucas Trent as a mechanic, a quiet man with oil-stained hands and a downturned gaze. But now he moved with clarity, command. The ship wrapped around his thoughts like a second skin, translating instinct into motion, fear into defense, purpose into speed. The archive's signature is still on us, Ilara said, her voice tense. As long as it lingers, they'll follow. Lucas didn't answer. His eyes flicked to the navigation glyphs, already rerouting them toward a dense asteroid belt ahead. What are you doing? Teria asked, narrowing her eyes. Setting a trap, Lucas said, and for the first time, his voice held steel. They dropped into the belt with no warning. Jagged rocks twisted in wild orbits, colliding, breaking, reforming. It was the kind of place no pilot dared enter without predictive algorithms and a death wish. But Lucas wasn't using math. He was listening. The ship knew this place. It remembered these movements like a rhythm. Like breathing. Behind them, the Xereth vessel followed, but it moved like a predator. Heavy, brutal, confident. They're trying to force us into the center, Ilara warned. They'll collapse the field. Trap us. Double quotes. Lucas smirked. Good, let them. As the ship weaved through the rocks, Lucas extended part of the neural field outward. He could feel the resonance of the second seed inside him, still small, still growing, but full of intent. It projected into the field ahead, distorting space, creating ghost signals. You're baiting them, Teria realized, blinking. You're making them think we're damaged. Just enough, Lucas replied, sweat beading on his brow. I want them close. And they came. The Xereth ship plunged after them, blades of red energy slicing into the void. It was getting too close now. One wrong move, and it would rip their ship apart. But Lucas had already chosen the moment. Hold on, he muttered. At the precise center of the asteroid field, Lucas triggered the pulse. The ship released a burst of raw, bonded energy, not a weapon, not an attack, an echo of the archive. It vibrated across the field like a scream through glass. The asteroids responded. Hundreds of fragments suddenly shifted orbit. altered by the resonance, and collapsed inward toward the xereth ship. The Predator became prey in an instant. The enemy vessel tried to pull away, but the field was collapsing. Dozens of rocks slammed into its hull, shattering its shields, tearing into its sides. Black smoke and glowing metal spilled into the void, but it wasn't destroyed. Not yet. The xereth vessel, wounded and furious, fired one last blast of beam of pure disruption energy aimed directly at the heart of Lucas's ship. "Brace!" Ilara shouted. The ship jolted violently. Alarms screamed. Systems flickered. Lucas was thrown back from the glyphs. His vision blurred. He heard tearing metal. Saw blood. Teria had been hit. She slumped forward, a dark stain blooming on her side. "No," Lucas scrambled forward, catching her before she fell. "You have to finish it," she whispered, eyes glazed but steady. "They won't stop." Lucas looked at Ilara. Her face was pale, terrified. "She's right," Ilara said. "They'll track us again, unless—" Lucas stood. Unless he ended it. He stepped back into the chamber. The glyphs flickered, hesitant, wounded, like the ship itself was in pain. But the second seed still pulsed inside him. He called to it. Not with words, but with intent, and it answered. Walls lit with unfamiliar symbols, new ones. Not from this ship. From the other. The second vessel, still unborn, unfolded its presence through Lucas, integrating with the core systems. And for the first time, they fused. The ship groaned, split, and reformed. The neural chamber expanded. Lucas didn't just control the ship now. He became part of it. He saw the enemy vessel limping beyond the collapsing asteroid field. He didn't hesitate. He unleashed the fusion pulse, a stream of white-blue energy, too pure to be called a weapon, too beautiful to be war, burst from the hull, cutting through the void like light through shadow. It pierced the xereth ship and silenced. And it vanished. No explosion. Just erasure. Lucas collapsed. The neural bond cut. The glyphs dimmed. Terria's voice reached him through the haze. "You did it." He looked over. Ilara was helping her sit upright, pressing a glowing field over her wound. The stars outside were still, but something had changed. Lucas felt it. Not just victory. Evolution. He was no longer a passenger. He was no longer just a man who repaired what was broken. He was the keeper of a living legacy. And the seed inside him wasn't finished growing. The silence after battle always carried a strange weight. In the wake of the final pulse, the stars themselves seemed quieter, less hostile, more aware. Lucas Trent floated in the neural chamber, breath shallow, eyes closed. The ship's pulse was faint now, not from fear, but from recovery. The fusion had nearly undone it, nearly undone him. He wasn't the same man who once sat on a lonely bench in a dusty workshop, repairing old mining tools on Sigma 7. The bond inside him had changed everything. He had touched something no human ever had. And something had touched him back. Across the chamber, Ilara knelt beside Teria. The wound in her side was sealed now, wrapped in a stasis patch, but the toll was evident. Her skin, usually glowing with soft light, was dimmer, her breath thinner. Lucas forced himself to sit up. Every muscle screamed, but he moved anyway. "Is she?" he asked, his voice ragged. Ilara looked up, her expression unreadable. "She survived, but she needs rest. And the ship, it needs time too." Lucas looked around. The walls of the vessel now fused with the second seed had changed. What were once smooth curves were now laced with glowing veins, soft trails of hybrid code etched in light. The bond had become permanent, complete. Not just a ship anymore. Something more. Something new. He could feel it breathing with him. Thinking. With him. "The archive is gone," he whispered. We erased their last hope of stealing it. We preserved it, Ilara corrected. The Xereth may have lost this battle, but they'll return. They always do. Their kind never stops hunting power. Lucas stood. The weight in his chest was heavy, but it was no longer confusion. It was clarity. Then we finish what the builders started. Ilara stared at him and for a long moment said nothing. Then she rose and nodded. There's one place left, she said. One system the Xereth could never breach. A sanctuary. Hidden by resonance fields even they can't penetrate. The builders called it Halamara. In their tongue, it meant the breath of remembering. Lucas tilted his head. Is it still there? If it is, Ilara said, it's waiting for us. They spent the next 2 days in silence, repairing what they could. Lucas worked around the clock, his tools no longer separate from him, the ship no longer a vessel but a partner. It responded to his intent before he finished thinking. Rooms shifted as needed. Energy lines redirected around trauma. The second seed, once just a pulse inside him, was now a whisper subtle, guiding, watching. It wasn't trying to take him over. It was learning from him. And he from it. By the third day, Teria was strong enough to walk. She found Lucas standing in the viewport chamber, eyes on the stars. For a long while she said nothing. Then, quietly, you know the ship won't release you now. I know, Lucas replied. And I don't want it to. We were taught to believe only the first chosen, the original builders, could. Awaken both seeds, she said. You've done more than that. You've unified them. You've given them new purpose. Lucas turned, and for the first time, she saw it clearly. His eyes had changed. No longer just human. They shimmered faintly. With the glow of glyph light, not overwritten. Enhanced. Double quotes. I didn't plan this, he said. But maybe that's why it worked. I never wanted to control the ship. I just wanted to help it heal. Tears shimmered at the edge of Teria's eyes. You've done more than heal. You've reminded it why it was made. A soft chime rang through the ship. Ilara's voice followed. We found Halamara. Lucas and Teria returned to the command chamber. Before them, projected in the void, was a world unlike anything Lucas had ever seen. It shimmered like a diamond floating in a sea of blue fire. Rings of clouds moved in harmony around its surface, and across the atmosphere, fragments of forgotten vessels drifted peacefully, guardians in sleep. Time didn't seem to touch it. It was as though the planet had been dreaming, waiting for someone to knock on the door. We've been transmitting the glyph resonance, Ilara said. And something responded. Lucas stepped into the neural field. Immediately, the planet's outer ring shimmered and opened out. A tunnel of light formed, part energy, part gravity, drawing them inward not with force, but welcome. It recognizes. U.S., Lucas whispered. They descended slowly, passing through layers of memory stored in cloud and storm. Within, towers emerged, spirals of crystal and stone, grown rather than built, each one humming with the echoes of long-dead voices. As the ship landed on a cradle of light, Lucas stepped out first. The air was warm, sweet, almost familiar. Moment his foot touched the surface, a ripple spread across the valley, waking up what had been waiting. Glyphs rose from the ground like mist. They circled him. And then they spoke, not aloud. Not even in thought. They showed him. Images of builders planting seeds, not in soil, but in souls. They had known their enemies would come. So they didn't hide their legacy in walls. They hid it in willing hearts. The seed had been meant to bond not with warriors, but with listeners. With those who respected life, who healed. Lucas turned back toward the ship, toward Teria and Ilara standing in the light, and realized what had happened. He hadn't earned the bond because of his knowledge. He had earned it because of his kindness. And now, he wasn't just a pilot. He was chosen to lead the next chapter. The glyphs surrounded all three of them, forming rings around their heads, soft and radiant. The ship behind them shifted again, this time permanently. It formed a second cradle, another. Seed was waking. Lucas reached for it with open hands. This time, it wasn't a core. It was a voice, and it whispered one word: remember. As the light swallowed the valley, as Halimara awoke, as ancient signals rippled outward across the galaxy, Lucas Trent, the engineer, the bonded, the listener, became the first architect of a new age, and the stars, for the first time in 1,000 years, whispered back,